Deion Sanders has destroyed one of his biggest critics in Paul Finebaum on national television. Now he has Paul Finebaum eating crow and singing a different tune after yesterday's dominating win against Texas Tech. But before we get off into today's podcast, tell a friend to tell a friend. Well, ever since Deion Sanders has took over the Colorado Buffaloes program, he has had major critics, and he has had critics that said he wasn't cut for the job. Now, we know who his major critics are. You got the likes of Jason Whitlock, Danny Cannell, and Paul Findbaum. And it seems that they really never gave Deion Sanders a chance when he took over that Colorado football program. Now, you know, last year Deion and the Colorado Buffaloes finished off 4-8 after they got off to a hot start when they went 3-0, and then Travis Hunter went down and things just took a downward spiral. But Deion Sanders was out there building the culture out in Colorado to really give that team that extra incentive and that extra drive to get things turned in the right direction. So what Deion Sanders did in the offseason is he retooled things through the transfer portal. You had people from the team jumping in the transfer portal. You had commits flipping their commits to come to Colorado, and the coaching staff revamped his coaching staff. Now, what Deion Sanders has done this year has been impressive with that coaching staff. You got the likes of offensive line coach Phil Ledhold, ex-NFL star. You got the defensive line coach and Warren Sapp, ex-NFL star, Pro Bowler, Hall of Famer, and Super Bowl champion. And also, you got Pat Shermer, the offensive coordinator. And then you went out and got Livingston, the defensive coordinator from the Cincinnati Bengals. So Deion Sanders has built a great coaching staff. And these kids are responding to what these coaches are conveying to them in practice and in film. And you can see it by their play. Now, they finished the season last year 4-8. Everybody coming into this year really never gave Colorado a chance. All last year, they said it was a circus. You heard what Jason Whitlock said. Deion is teaching these kids to be gangsters and rappers and stuff like that because of all the national media spectacle that went on in Boulder. You had rappers in the locker room. You had the kids flashing up their diamonds, their chains, and things like that. So Deion has been heavy criticized and scrutinized. But when it comes to Deion's style of play and his brash style of play and the way he goes about doing things, people had a problem with him with the post-game press conferences, with the glasses on, how he jumped out there talking about, I got receipts and things like that. People didn't like that. People was, talking about Deion is taking away from them kids. But what Deion is doing, man, he's building a solid program. And right now, Colorado is the hottest thing smoking. They are 7-2 after yesterday's dominating win against Texas Tech, 41-27. And it seems that Paul Finebaum has taken a page back, taken a step back, eating crow and mincing his words. Now, we all know what Paul Finebaum has said about Deion Sanders and the Colorado Buffaloes, that program is irrelevant. Deion Sanders is, a clown to that nature. He doesn't know what he's doing. That program is not going to be nothing. They got two good stars in Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter. And Deion Sanders went on, RG3 and his wife's podcast, and he had some things that he wanted to say about Paul Finebaum on his criticism of the Colorado Buffaloes. Now, we covered that story early in the year when the season got started, the things that Paul Finebaum was saying about Colorado. Then after yesterday's win, Paul Finebaum is singing a different tune, and he's like eating crow. He has backpedaled. He got the retreat dribble on, and he is startled by what Colorado is doing, and it's impressive. And what Deion Sanders did when he was on the podcast with RG3 and his wife, he basically destroyed Paul Finebaum on national television, and he made Paul Finebaum respect what is going on in Colorado. So for the guys that didn't see that show that I covered when Deion Sanders was on RG3 and his wife's podcast, let's take a listen to what Deion Sanders had to say, how he obliterated Paul Finebaum on national television. And then it's going to be followed up what Paul Finebaum had to say after Deion Sanders and the Colorado Buffaloes went to Texas Tech and beat the Red Raiders 41-27. Let's take a listen.
When you hear guys like Paul Finebaum calling your program irrelevant, you know,
but he talking about us. How can we be irrelevant and you talking about me?
Yeah.
Like every time I turn around, somebody's sending me a quote that you talking about. So
he's a fan.
how? The thing about a fan, you got to understand, a fan only blows when you're hot.
Ooh.
I'm gonna go away.
Come on, man. I'm writing these down, man.
Now listen to what he said. A fan only blows when you're hot. And see, now that they're hot, Paul Finebaum won't keep that same energy.
Yeah, a fan only blows when you're hot. So we must be hot.
I love that.
Right.
I love that.
So I know what he's doing, and I'm proud of him, that he's smart enough to understand that this generation and this thought process and the way we communicate on sports is different.
Yes.
And he's a dying breed. So what does he
Wow.
have to do to stay and keep up with this change? I gotta go find that big bad wolf and talk about it.
Yeah.
So now
Big
I
bad
keep
wolf.
my relevancy. And I'm saying, cool, but I'm not gonna help you. I'm not gonna add to you. I'm not gonna respond. Because that's what you want. Yeah, you just want me to respond. I don't do that. I'm not gonna help you.
And of all the schools that impressed me the most on Saturday, it was Colorado. I mean, they went someplace I thought would be incredibly difficult, and they won. They won just in dominating fashion. And you know, I don't need to add the Travis Hunter situation, but yeah, as someone who has been very critical of Deion Sanders, I mean, I have to say what he has managed this team quite well. In spite of all the bullets and all the attacks and all the criticism, some of it coming from me, and I give him enormous credit. I don't think very many people thought this was possible, other than maybe a group of sicko fans out there in Boulder. But they're back to being a legitimate story for the first time. Last year, it wasn't legitimate. It was
there
fine.
you go.
Now you heard what Paul Finebaum had to say, followed up with what Deion said first. See, now I got to tip my cap to Paul Finebaum, because he was humble enough to say on national television that he was wrong. That out of all the schools that impressed him most was Colorado, and they're back to being a legit program. So you got to give him his kudos for that. But it took for Deion Sanders to obliviate him on national television in front of a national audience on the RG3 podcast to say what he had to say, to have Paul Finebaum respond the way he did. And like Deion Sanders said, you know, all the criticism and things like that, he's not going to help you out. He's not going to respond. But see, Deion, he got the receipts. Now, Deion got the last laugh because Paul Finebaum had to come out and he's eating his words. Now he's eating his words. Paul Finebaum said that, you know, they was irrelevant. Now you got to keep that same energy. But he was humble enough to stand down, to stand fast, and say Colorado is impressive. And what Deion is doing is very impressive. So you got to tip your cap to Paul Finebaum. But at the same time, Deion Sanders straight destroyed Paul Finebaum on national television. And that's how Paul Finebaum responded. So you guys let me know what y'all think about today's podcast. And like I said, if you're not subscribed to the channel, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, turn your post notifications on so you know every time Simply Ball drops another hot banger. And before you get out of here, do me a favor, give the video a thumbs up, and we're going to catch you on the next one. Deuces.
Thanks for listening to the Simply Ball Droppin' podcast. Be sure to subscribe, like, and share on all major platforms.
That's all, folks.